Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fasting and accept your recitation of the Quran and give us continued tawfiq to fast in the manner that He wants us to fast and to recite the Quran in this holy month of Ramadan. In this first week, we're going to have a little bit of time between the Quran recitation and the adhan. So inshallah, we will try to look at one verse of the Quran and contemplate over that verse of the Quran. And tonight, I want to look at the first verse that was revealed to the Holy Prophet. In Surah Al-Alaq, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Iqra' bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. In Tafsir Namuneh, Ayatollah Nasir Makarim Shirazi, he says that the Prophet of Allah used to go to the cave of Hira to do ibadah over there and also to contemplate, to do tafakkur. And one of those days, the angel appeared to him and said to him, Iqra, read. Now, according to this narration in Tafsir Namuneh, the Prophet of Allah responded and he said, Ma ana biqari'. I am not of those who read. Now, obviously, this raises a question. Did the Prophet of Allah know how to read? Or did he not know how to read? Was the Prophet of Allah literate? Or was he illiterate? And there are different opinions amongst the scholars. There is one opinion that says the Prophet of Allah did not know how to read and write. And this is not an imperfection for him. Rather, it is a proof of his prophethood. The second opinion is that the Prophet of Allah did not know how to read or write before Bi'athat, before the first revelation, but that after Bi'athat, he knew how to read, though he was not seen to be writing. And the third opinion is that no, he knew how to read and he also knew how to write as well. Now that discussion is beyond the scope of our discussion tonight. But Shaheed Murtaza Mutahari has a very beautiful book in Farsi, of course, called Payambare Ummi, the Untaught Prophet. And he has discussed it in length in that book or that article that you can find online. In any case, so the angel said to him, Iqra' bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read in the name of your Lord who created. What I want to do this evening is I want to parse this verse into 4 segments. And the first segment of this verse is Iqra'. It is the command to read. And this is significant for a number of reasons. The first reason why it's significant is that you know that the people of Arabia were not known for reading and writing. They were not very much a literate people. Most of them were illiterate. Only a handful of people knew how to read and write. And by that time, they did not have any books that you can mention to be worthy of mentioning. And yet the first word of the Quran that was revealed to the Holy Prophet was read. And because of that, Muslims had to read the Quran. They had to read other texts. And so they started to learn reading and writing. And if it wasn't because of reading and writing, books would not have been written. And books would not have been read. And knowledge would not have flourished. And universities or madaris would not have been established. Thought may not have grown. The Islamic civilization that we know of may not have been the way we see it. So one, Iqra. The second reason why it's significant is because you can only read that which has already been written. Reading means that you have a text in front of you that has already been written. If I relate somebody's words which have not been written, I don't say I'm reading. I will say I am relating. I'm doing naql. I'm doing naql of qawl. Right? I'm transmitting it, but not reading. So this is significant because it demonstrates that the Quran was a book even before it was revealed to the Holy Prophet. And the Prophet was not somebody who wrote this book. The Prophet of Allah was somebody who read from a book that was already written. And therefore, the first word of the Quran demonstrates that this book is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet is one who reads from it. But the third reason why Iqra is significant is because the Prophet is being told to read. You know, the Prophet of Allah received the Quran. He received the entire Quran. The Quran has two revelations, a gradual revelation and an instantaneous revelation. The Prophet of Allah received the instantaneous revelation of the Quran. He knew the butun, the inner meanings of the Quran. He knew the reality of the Quran. نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك. The angel, Jibreel, has descended with the Quran on where? Onto the heart of the Holy Prophet. And yet that Prophet is being told that even you should do what? Read from the Quran. And therefore, even if we want to benefit from the Quran, my dear brothers and sisters, then we also have to be amongst people who read from the Quran. Yes, we will study from the Quran. Yes, we will listen about the Quran. We will do tadabbur on the Quran. But we also have to be people who read from the Quran if we want to benefit from the Quran. So just as a side note over here, my dear brothers and sisters, that inshallah, I hope you will join us in the reading of the Quran in the month of Ramadan. We have programs for adults and for children. We have sessions of recitation for adults and for children. And we have kept it at 7 o'clock, inshallah, so that you're able to make it for these recitations. And this holy month of Ramadan, inshallah, can be a month of the recitation of the Quran for us. Iqra bismi rabbik. Read in the name of your Lord. If we really want to contemplate over the Quran, we sometimes have to contemplate over every word of the Quran. No word in the Quran is an extra. And we need to ask ourselves, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say that? Now I'll give you an example. Now, Iqra bismi rabbik means read by starting in the name of your Lord, or read by seeking help in the name of your Lord. Okay? Even though it's not written, but it's understood to be that way. For example, all of us, before we start the recitation of the Quran, we say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah. What in the name of Allah? I begin in the name of Allah, or I seek help from the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have a question for you over here. When I ask you to go and get help from somebody, what do I say to you? I say, go and get help from your teacher. Do I tell you, go and get help from the name of your teacher? I say, go and get help from your friend. Do I say to you, go and get help from the name of your friend? Let's say you need to pick up a table. Is your friend going to help you pick up the table? Or is the name of your friend going to help you pick up the table? So why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, Iqra, read, not seeking help from your Lord, but seeking help from the name of your Lord? I think that should be a question for all of us, because all of us, before we start the recitation of the Quran, we say, Bismillah, I seek help in the name of Allah. Now, the detailed discussion over here is going to be beyond the scope of our conversation and what the time will allow. But the one point I want to take away from it is that things happen because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests, He expresses, He discloses His attributes. You are listening to me right now, right? And the only way listening happens is if as-sami' manifests listening, and therefore you too are able to listen. The only way you're looking at me right now, the only way you can see me is if Al-Basir, the one who is all-seeing, manifests that attribute on this earth within you, and therefore you are able to see me as well. Right? And therefore everything that happens, every beauty that you see, every glory that you see, every activity that happens is a manifestation of the asma, of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I just want you to keep this in mind because we'll come to it a bit later. The one point that I want to also take away from here is that we don't just need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to teach us to recite the Quran. We need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue teaching us to recite the Quran. We don't just need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to acquire knowledge. We need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to constantly keep giving that knowledge to us. Think about it. It's not only the first time that the Prophet of Allah was told to recite the Quran that he was told, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Every time the Prophet recited the Quran, every time you recite the Quran, you say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Do you not know how to recite the Quran? Then why do you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim? It's a recognition that even those things that I know, at every moment I need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue teaching me. There's a great scholar or a great person by the name of Sheikh Haddad. He was a student of Sayyid Ali Qadi. Okay? And he was known for his struggle in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says that at a later age in life, after he had reached perhaps a particular spiritual station, he says, one morning I wanted to do wudu. And when I went to do wudu, no matter how hard I tried, I forgot how to do wudu. I just didn't know how to do wudu. Now, wudu is something that you at least do 3 times a day. Sometimes more. We do it every day. In a year, you say 365 multiplied by 3. You know, even in the morning when you wake up sometimes and you're half asleep before the Fajr prayer, you still don't have to think about how to do your wudu. It's almost second nature to you, right? And he said, in the middle of the day, at the age of 60 or 70, whatever he was, he said, I couldn't remember how to perform my wudu. There's only after a while I remembered. And I said, see, God is teaching me a lesson. That even those things that I know really well, if for a single moment He took His attention away from me, if the alim did not allow that the ilm to become manifested within me, then even those things that I know, I will forget them. Even those skills that I have, I will lose them. Even that property that I have, in a second I could lose it as well. So read, Bismi Rabbik, in the name of your Lord. Now, read in the name of your Lord. So my question to you is, which name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be manifested so that I can read and you can read? Now, if you think about the activity of reading, reading involves looking at a text, correct? A person who can see is a person who can read. And if you want to verbalize your reading, you want to vocalize your reading, then reading requires the ability to speak, right? And therefore, undoubtedly, when I read, I need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifesting the ability to see within me. And when I read, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has manifested the ability to speak. Allamahul bayan, to speak within me. What's interesting is, he doesn't say, Iqra bismil basir. It doesn't say, Iqra bismil mutakallim. It says, Iqra bismi rabbik. The name that has to become manifested is the name Ar-Rab. The Rab has to express himself, disclose himself. Why Ar-Rab? Why is that name so important to reading the Quran? Now we have to look at this word Rab. And what does the word Rab mean? You find it's a very important concept in the Quran. In fact, much of the Quran has been dedicated to discussing the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's interesting in the Quran is that the Quran does not pay so much attention or focus on proving the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rarely you will find a verse that is trying to demonstrate the existence of Allah. أَفِي اللَّهِ شَكٌّ فَاطِرِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Interestingly, the Quran does not even try to demonstrate that Allah is the Khaliq, Allah is the creator. You find in almost every religion, even the polytheistic religions, they will believe the creator is one. وَلَئِن سَأَلْتَهُم مَّنْ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. If you were to ask even the mushrikeen of Mecca, who created the heavens and the earth, they will say, Allah created the heavens and the earth. There's no doubt about it. Even if you were to study Hinduism, and you go to the roots of it. Now today, if I ask you what is a polytheistic religion that you understand or you know of, you would say Hinduism. It is a polytheistic religion. Yet even when you look into their teachings, they will say the creator is but one. But most of the discussions of Tawheed in the Quran revolve around the fact that the Rabb is one. And only the Khaliq, the creator, can be the Rabb. And none other than the creator can be the Rabb. This concept of rububiyyah is a very important concept. It's also very important in our lives as well. If you think about wherever we are struggling in life, we're not struggling with proving the existence of Allah. We're not even struggling with proving that Allah is the creator. We all believe Allah is the creator. The place where we come and struggle in our iman, in our yaqeen, is to be able to tell ourselves the creator is also the Rabb. He controls everything. My rizq is from him. My health is from him. My life is from him. My knowledge is from him as well. This concept of rububiyyah is a very important concept. Now, what's the meaning of Rabb? And we normally translate Rabb in English to mean Lord. So what's the meaning of Lord? One of the meanings of Rabb, of course, is master. One of the meanings of Rabb is owner, Malik. But our scholars say one of the most important meanings of Rabb is the one who nurtures you. Okay? There's a beautiful story, and I think I will have to end with that story. And we'll have to continue this reflection tomorrow evening. Why is it Iqra bismi rabbik? Why does the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to be manifested so that I am able to read the Quran? Okay? But the meaning of Rabb, will end with a story, is you know that in the story of Abraha and the elephants, yes? When Abraha came towards the Kaaba to destroy the Kaaba, and he brought his elephants with him as well, when they neared the city of Mecca, they came across the camels of Abdul Muttalib. So Abraha took all the camels of Abdul Muttalib. So at that time, Abdul Muttalib was the leader of the Quraysh. He was the leader of Mecca at that time. So that evening, Abdul Muttalib went into the camp of Abraha. And Abraha thought to himself that Abdul Muttalib has come to ask me for a peace treaty, to perhaps ask me not to attack the Kaaba, and he's come to make some type of a compromise with me. So when Abdul Muttalib came, and Abraha said to him, "What do you want?" He said, "I have come to get my camels." So Abraha said, "Perhaps in my eyes you have fallen. Because I thought, being the leader of Mecca, you would come for the people of Mecca to protect the Kaaba, for example, to protect the Kaaba. And instead you came and you asked for your camels." And that's where he said a very beautiful statement, and the meaning of Rabb starts to become a bit more clear for us. He says, "Ana Rabbul Ibil." I am the Rabb of the camels. Walil Bayti Rabbun. And the Kaaba, the Bayt, also has a Rabb. I am the Rabb of the camels. It means I am the caretaker of the camels. I am the one who manages them. I am the one who nurtures them. I am the one responsible for protecting them. I am the one responsible for guiding them. I'm the one responsible in the morning to take them out. That's my responsibility. And this house, the Kaaba, it also has a Rabb. So the Rabb is the one who nurtures, who cares, who manages, who protects, who guides. In simple words, the Rabb is the one who takes you from one level of kamal, of perfection, to another level of kamal, another level of perfection. The Rabb is the one who pulls out the potential that is there within you and helps you to actualize it. That is Rabb. So why is that important? Inshallah, time is not there tonight, but God willing, if the Rabb wishes, then tomorrow night, inshallah, we will discuss that in some detail. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma